Good evening, traders. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you on the 14th of March with a primer on Ichimoku Charting System. And specifically, I'm going to show you what I use to trade FCX today, scalping it short, okay, compared to the traditional charting candlesticks that I use, and why I use Ichimoku charts now in conjunction with what you're familiar with me doing with the candlestick charts. Okay, a quick look at Ichimoku and a definition. Basically, you can see it's a very graphic chart. Specifically, the definition means a chart with one glance equilibrium that you can look at very quickly. Alright, you can pause this and look at this later. The concept is as such. You can pause this as well. I'm not going to go into explanation. I want to get right to the chart. It's composed of 5 lines. Again, you can pause this. Okay, you hear me talk about Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen a lot during the day. The cloud itself that you'll see is called a Kumo, and the formulas are as such. Okay, crossovers of the 9 period and the 26 period are very important. I'll point that out, as well as a Chikou span, which lags price action, and that gives you a bearish or a bullish sentiment. Okay, the Senkou and Senkou span A and span B create the cloud or the Kumo, and this is projected into the future. Okay, the significance of this is this plots support and resistance, and depending on the depth or dimension, a vertical dimension of the cloud, it can tell you if the support or resistance is significant or insignificant. Okay, so getting back to the actual chart, this is FCX. This is what I was looking at today. We had this channel on the daily, the traditional chart. Okay, we know that a descending channel eventually breaks to the upside. We know that we can use the stochastics to time those trades to the upside, okay, or to the downside if we're overbought. And we know that we can use MACD and other momentum indicators to tell us when to buy and to sell. Okay, now what we were looking at, the room was looking at this as a long, okay, off of this lower trend line. And I happened to shift over to the Ichimoku chart, and this is what I saw on the daily. Now, right off the bat, I can tell you that because price action was below the cloud, that I would be looking for bearish entries only. Okay, the fact that the Chikou span behind here at the time was near the top of this cloud gave me a reason to pause. However, there was a bearish cross of the Tenkan-sen, the red line, with the Kijun-sen, okay, the white line, to the downside. All right, and it was headed towards the cloud previous to the entry today. So that already had a bearish feel to the chart. So what I did was shift to the shorter time frames, the 30-minute. Okay, now if we look back, this is what I was looking at. Going in today, this is what I saw. I saw the cloud up above. All right, I saw this red line, the Tenkan-sen, crossing down through the Kijun-sen, okay, which was a bearish signal. The fact that it was below the cloud almost below the cloud, when I got this signal, it was telling me this was a strong signal to the downside. Okay, now we see that the Tenkan-sen crossed back up above the Kijun-sen. So with Ichimoku, if this occurs below the cloud, typically this is a weaker signal for a bullish trade. Remember, on the daily, we were looking at only bearish trades because we were below the cloud, okay, the Kumo. So moving forward into today, I started a put position with this in mind, okay, but I shifted to a shorter time frame on the 5-minute, this is what gave me the clue that this was going to be a good trade. This is the 14th here. We were riding right along the Chikken-sen and Kijutsen. Okay, prices was being held down by both of those lines plus the cloud up above. All right, the Chikou span, which is 26 periods in the past, was below the cloud, which is bearish. Okay, and I entered the trade in the morning. Okay, well, you can see that early on the cloud showed resistance. Okay, and prices started to move away. And as we played further into the day, these two signal lines, the Chikken-sen and Kijutsen, started heading down with a vengeance. Okay, we started to encounter the lower trend line, and I took my trade off completely. I took half of it off around up in here when I was talking to No Doji, and I took the remainder off at this lower trend line, which is where I said I would exit because I felt that we could bounce. Playing out to the rest of the day, we got the bounce there at the trend line, which Johnny was trading as well to the long side, but I scalped this to the downside based on the 5-minute, and we can see that we got another crossover to the downside, Chikken-sen and Kijutsen, and price finished back down at this lower trend line. All right, so you could have traded this all the way to the downside because you didn't. This cross above was below the cloud, and Chikou span was below the cloud as well. So those two indicators were telling me to stay. And this is hard for me to explain because I'm not used to the pronunciation and the terminology, but I know what I'm looking at now. So you need to study this because this would have kept you out of a long until you saw these things setting up for a long to the upside. So going back to the traditional chart, on the 5-minute, we can see that we had this breakdown as well. Okay, but on the regular chart, I could have been looking at this as an entry just using the stochastics and not knowing if this was going to embed, okay, if this is going to give me a signal or not to trade it to the long side. And this is continuing to move lower. Okay, so if you had entered here, you would have been a little bit underwater, okay, in calls especially. Now where this becomes more profound is when you look at trades in the past, like I did today on US Steel. Okay, now we traded US Steel back last year in between these time frames. Same thing, we had a descending channel, and this is one of my worst trades last year actually. I was trading calls, and we had, let me pull the stochastic so you can see it. During this time period here and further out, we kept seeing this lower trend line in this channel as an opportunity to trade to the upside. Okay, but we got a lot of signals down here that didn't play out to the upside like we wanted to. Now if you switch over to the daily on the Ichimoku, what you're going to see is going to be pretty profound in my opinion. Okay, this is the same time period. All right off the bat, we had a crossover here of the Chikken-sen and Kijutsen. Okay, we didn't get a buy signal, a strong buy signal, until price got back above the cloud. Okay, and it wasn't until here that we're above the cloud and we got a crossover, a bullish crossover. That was a strong signal. Okay, where we moved from 2760 up to 32. Okay, all the time before we were looking at this channel playing out, you can see that we had a profound downtrend that Kumo would have kept you short the entire time rather than long, okay, expecting this bounce to occur. Okay, there were many traders in the room that traded this to the long side with calls, and we kept expecting this to break out significantly. Now we got to move here from 41 to 46. Now that's significant, but the point is that had I been using Ichimoku back then, I probably wouldn't even taken this trade, okay, because I never got a signal here that was strong to the upside, all right, to trade calls. Now, common would have been a different story. I could have traded common and sold covered calls and got my cost average down until we finally got a move up. But why be in a trade all of this time when Ichimoku is telling you that you have the cloud up above, you have the Chikou span below the cloud, which is bearish, you have the crossover to the downside, which got you into this trade short back in January, February, March, April, okay, and didn't give you a signal to go long until you moved through the cloud and got a buy signal to the upside, almost a year later, okay. So that's the impact that Ichimoku charting system brings to the table, okay. We're trading descending channels in the room quite a bit, and until I started seeing these trades through the lens of an Ichimoku trading system, I really was doing myself a disservice, okay. So you can take this with a grain of salt, but if you don't see what I'm showing you here, I don't know what to tell you. You can basically go and watch some of the videos, okay, because I'm not doing it justice, but I'm bringing it to you to show you what happened on FCX today and what happened on X on US Steel when we traded this previously, okay. Again, this is Cousin Vinny. Take care. It's a little long-winded. We'll see you in the room tomorrow. I hope this helped.